Hey, all you space cats. Welcome to the Black Hole Podcast, Season 7, Episode 18. I'm your host, Mitch Miller, running for President of the United States as the most neutral candidate and the most transparent candidate. I'm also a free market entrepreneur, but I don't think we've had a free market since I was in college in the United States. And this is not because of regulation, as they want you to believe. Right? They tell you that you have to have less regulation to have a free market, but regulation is generally applied evenly over an industry. I think we haven't had a free market because billionaires manipulate every aspect of the market, from the psychology of the customers to how much we pay to advertise on quote unquote free internet, on the free internet, right? So something to think about. Do we have a free market? I'm a free market entrepreneur. I want to get us back to a free market. I'm all for reducing regulation, but we have to face the actual facts of why there's other aspects of why we don't have a free market in this country. Now, I talked about high school sports in the last episode, putting an HD camera in every high school. And I've talked about a cable box program that brings a standardized cable box that is good for 50 years, brings you HD video, brings you internet into your home. So I meant to say this on the last episode. You're going to be able to save the high school sports games, the high school sporting events on disc off of your cable box, off of your standard cable box. So we're going to make sure that we're streaming a signal that can be saved onto USB or disc. And you can send that to your aunt in Hawaii or send it wherever to your family members around the globe through the mail. So that's another aspect of the programs that I'm proposing. Now, I want to talk about capitalism because in capitalism, supposedly, if you have an asset, you should be able to make money off that asset. So your home is usually your greatest asset. I'm all for establishing systems and networks that allow you to make money off your home. I'm not talking about renting it out to some random person. I'm talking about the systems, putting solar, things like that on your home that can be sold to a smart grid so that you make money while you're at work and your house is sitting empty. I'm talking about servers that heat the water in the house. There's new technology that the servers that create heat when they're running can heat your hot water in your house, right? So we install these servers in your house and you can farm out that data capability to companies. But we have to have a smart data network and a smart grid, and I have strategies to get us there. Now, to talk about the psyche of males, general around the world and here in the United States. I'm not an expert, but I am a male, so I'd like to talk about the psyche of the male. Males love to burn stuff, okay? And that's why I think we're fighting an uphill battle with the climate crisis, because a lot of males like burning stuff. Look, ever since humans discovered fire and domesticated it, men have been the keepers of the flame, right? And it allowed us to expand to places that were difficult to live without flame. And so it's kind of part of our identity, from grilling meat to welding something. Burning is critical to the male identity. And in a changing world where the lines between men and women are blurred, men are going to cling to anything they can to identify themselves as 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 a man. So they want their vehicles to burn stuff. So let's let them. Let's in this transition, let's allow that to happen. Let's let people fill their vehicle with natural gas generators, right? We have millions of miles of infrastructure and gas pipelines and pipes going to individual houses. So, as part of a smart grid, as part of smart infrastructure, we have to acknowledge that these lines are already run, and let's utilize them to create the smart electrical grid. So, as president, I would roll out a program to put more natural gas powered generators in rural houses, on the properties of rural houses. Obviously, we can't do it in the cities. There's a lot of noise with these generators. I'm sure we could build housings that muffle the sound more, but I have a plan for the cities, and I'll get into that. So what I want to do is partner with our generator companies, and some of them already have battery systems, right? Battery backup systems. So we're going to partner with our generator companies to develop battery systems that power the house. And we want a system that seamlessly switches the house's power to battery back to the grid seamlessly. So what happens is someone is driving an EV, they come home and they run the generator to charge the EV, right? So we're also going to partner with car EV companies and things like that. So EV and generator companies, but they come home, they run the generator to charge the car, and any excess electric that is produced while the car is charging, it goes to the battery system for the house. So the house might run the batteries down to 50% during the day, and then it gets recharged when the car is charging. So we have automobile companies gearing towards this concept of, hey, fill your car with natural gas. Instead of developing natural gas driven vehicles, buy an EV and fill it with natural gas. Once we need to get the systems out there, right? Let's get these house battery systems out there, and then once they're established in these houses that are mainly geared towards charging their car, they may choose then to add solar to their system. But the concept is simple. Buy an EV, buy an electric car, get a generator and a battery system, right? We'll subsidize that. And I said these rural homes, we're going to target homes fed by the last of the coal power plants and bring these houses onto natural gas on an individual level instead of retrofitting power plants to natural gas. We'll build the smart grid. So I want to talk about another expansion of humankind that allowed us to live in harsher areas as a species, and that's animal husbandry, right? We domesticated animals, and it allowed us to live in harsher conditions. So we talked about how men and fire go hand in hand. Men and animal husbandry also go hand in hand. So we can transition to that because there's some Australian scientists discovered a bacteria that generates electricity. So this program can invest in manageable generators producing this bacteria and creating generators that use bacteria for electricity, right? You pour in some kind of bacteria food every week. It's a small generator, but it generates electricity for the smart grid and for your house. So we expand the program. We get with these Australian scientists. We make sure that they're not manipulated by the billionaires to bury their research and keep everybody hooked to fossil fuels for electricity, right? We ensure that we can roll this out in the United States, and these generators aren't going to produce sound, so they can be fitted to houses in the cities. So we expand the program to the cities, and there we have it. So let's not fight against men's identities. Let's embrace it. Let's roll this out and fight climate change by being smart about it. And that's the program I want to initiate, and look into these bacteria and see if we can make manageable generators to feed the smart grid. And then you'll be able to make money off of these generators and feed your neighbors electricity if they can't roll that program out on their property, so on and so forth, or businesses. So this podcast started in a coal mine, and I'm talking about phasing out coal power plants. So here's for all the coal miners out there. I was a coal miner for 3 months, and I haven't had luck finding computer science people to help me with the duel.us, my website, to challenge people to non-lethal duels. People can discuss and vote on who I should challenge to a duel. I haven't had any luck finding computer science people to help me build any of my websites. I've done them all myself, and I'm going to continue to try to do that. I've just been on hiatus doing these podcasts and finishing up some housekeeping work around my property and my family's property. But I haven't had luck finding computer science people, so I want to reach out to the writers out there, the artists and the writers, because I am an artist and a writer. I'm not very talented with computers in the traditional sense. I want to propose an open source collaborative book. I've heard about these. People collaborate on Google Documents or whatever they do to write a book, right? And it's what I'm proposing here is an alternate history that mimics the oil barons of the United States. But instead, it's with the coal barons of the United States investing in electric vehicles, right? So we have the very real oil barons. I'm sure there were some very real coal barons. We create fictitious coal baron characters that mimic the very real oil barons of the United States. Now, these oil barons, they dismantled all the light rail systems in all the major metropolitan cities in the United States so that people would rely on vehicles and consuming oil. They did a bunch of, I'm sure, interesting and creative ways of destroying infrastructure so that people would need to have an individual automobile. So we research this. Our group researches all these things and the business moves they made, every step they took to establish dominance of the oil industry and automobiles. But instead, it's the coal barons, and they're investing in battery technology, electric charging technology, because they want people to be reliant on coal to power their automobiles. So they do the same things the oil barons did, but it's the coal barons. And basically at the end of the novel, the coal barons pretty much save the world when we are faced with this existential existential crisis of climate change. Everyone's driving electric vehicles already. Everything's geared towards electricity, so it's very easy to transition to sustainable solar wind power. And they do it much sooner than our current dimension or our current history tract here. So I think it's an interesting concept. Reach out to me if you'd like to help research and write this novel, and we can copyright it and put it out there into the universe. So thanks for listening. Until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity, and homeostasis.